We've received some questions about habit training. We talk about it a lot, and it's a very important part of a Charlotte Mason education. The big question we've been getting lately is, how do you instill good habits without using rewards? Let's talk about that today. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. Joining me today is my friend and coworker, Karen Smith. Karen, good to have you back.
Good to be back.
We want to talk today about habit training and rewards. We know that Charlotte encouraged us not to use grades or competition or rewards in schoolwork because it took the focus off of the knowledge for itself, for its own sake. But what about in habit training? What are some of your thoughts on that idea?
Well, let's just put it right out there.
Okay.
If you are rewarding your children for some behavior you want in them, you're bribing them to do it. The reward is a bribe. You do this, I'll give you that.
If they know you're going to give them
Yes.
something ahead of time.
Yes.
As opposed to they do something and we want to celebrate it together and they weren't expecting that celebration.
Yes.
So you're talking about if you dangle it in front of them and say, if you do that, you're going to get this.
Yes. And so, it's a bribe.
Strong words.
Put it out there. It is a bribe. And we all know that bribes lose their value over time.
Well, that's true.
So you may say, if you do this, I'll give you one M&M. Well, after a while, your child's going to hold out for more M&Ms.
Yeah, they're smart.
Or, I will get you whatever. The value goes up as your child learns how to get what he wants out of you.
How to beat the system,
Yes.
as it were. Yes, yes. And it dawned on me as you were saying that about the rewards losing their value. We are setting up habits of thinking as well as habits of behaving.
Yes.
Charlotte talked about that. And so we might focus on the behavior we want and use a reward to get them there, but what habit of thinking does that set up?
That's true.
I think it sets up, I do this in order. The reason I do this is to get that.
Yes. And it's very much you're getting the outward behavior that you want, but we're forgetting about the inward. What's the word I want?
The motivation or the inspiration, Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. Why do I do this?
Yes.
Why, from your child's perspective, why do I do a certain behavior or a certain task? Is it to get the reward, or is it because doing that makes me a better person, lets other people know I care for them, makes it so I can live someplace where it's not messy, makes my teeth healthier, my body healthier?
Yes.
Habits cover all sorts of things.
And Charlotte talked about if we want the habit, we need to go all the way back to the idea that prompts the actions that make the habit. The idea, so what is that idea? I guess it boils down to, is the idea, I want to have a healthy body, I want to have a clean surrounding, I want to take care of what God has given me.
Yes.
Or is the idea, I want the M&M?
Yes.
The other thing that dawned on me when I was pondering this question is when we offer rewards for some habits, are we going to reward for all the habits? Or do we have to make
Good
choices?
point.
Like, okay, I will reward you for brushing your teeth. Okay, that's, cleanliness, habit of cleanliness. What about the habit of diligence? If you brush your teeth diligently, you get 2 rewards? Are we rewarding the habit of attention in schoolwork? Are we rewarding kindness? You've got to make choices then.
Yes.
Which habits are you going to reward for and which ones are you not? And I wonder if that might set up confusion in the child's mind. Oh, this habit is worth more because
Yes.
I get something for doing it. This one must be optional.
Yes. I have to brush my teeth because I get a reward, but I don't have to be kind because I don't get a reward for that.
It's something to think about.
Something to think about.
It just dawned on me. You're making choices that could set up some confusion in the child's mind as to certain habits are of more value than others.
Yes, good point. So, how if we talk about how to get your children to do the things that you want them to do, whether that's a chore or it's an attitude or some behavior that they need to change. How do we have them do those things without dangling that reward in front of them? To begin with, particularly little children, and this is when you begin, they love to please their parents. I know sometimes it doesn't seem that way when they're throwing a temper tantrum over not getting their own way, but do you know of any children who do not see mom folding the laundry or washing the dishes or something like that, who do not want to offer their help too?
Oh, yes, especially in those preschool years.
Yes.
They are around your feet all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that having them help you means the task can take much longer,
Yes.
but you're setting up those good habits early on, and that working in those ways is its own reward. They get to help. They get to be pleasing to somebody, and that's just a built-in reward. They feel good because of what they've done.
A lot of times they feel good because they have accomplished something that a grown-up does. And
Yes.
it's a meaningful, they're not going to think of these terms and put it in
No.
these terms, but it's a meaningful contribution to the family. You know, I'm doing something that means something.
Yes, but even older children enjoy helping. If you missed the preschool years and getting your children on board with helping, you can set up those same attitudes in your older children. I know for us, it was, if you help make the mess, you're going to help clean it up. And that was just the standard.
It's a natural consequence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't meant to punish the children.
No.
It was meant to let them know that they had responsibility here. And when you have responsibility, it just makes you grow a little bit more, because now somebody's depending on you
True.
to get something done. And that can be chores, but it can also be our behavior. So if you have a child who has a bad attitude, that's going to sour everybody in the family.
Yeah. The atmosphere of the home. Yeah.
And so if you can talk to an older child. This is not behavior we want in our home. We're going to work together to change that. Here's how we're going to do that. Your child doesn't want to be that grumpy person. They might
don't want to
fall
be
into that
miserable.
habit, but they realize that things are not how they want it, and they want to be better. And so those little achievements, even if they're little baby steps, can make them start feeling like, I can do this. This can be different. And this is so much better than being grumpy all the time and having everybody else kind of at me.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I think it all boils down to, as you said, attitudes, and we're back to that. What's the initiating idea? What is the idea that this habit is built on?
yes.
And we want that idea to be inward inspiration as opposed to outward motivation.
yes.
Charlotte
Yes.
talked so much about, even they can pick up those ideas from their school books. She talked about, remember with the little boy who would just turn over in the mornings instead of getting up. And then he read about an heroic historical figure who would get up right away. And so then that was the motivating idea, the inspiration inside him.
Yes.
I want to be like him. That's what prompted him to keep going with that habit.
Yes. And I knew a preteen, teenage boy who actually made a statement one time. He was helping us with something, and he said, I want to be like Ralph Moody in his Little Britches series. That work attitude,
Yeah.
that work is not something to be avoided, but something that you do with a good will. And that was his attitude because of a book that he had read. And that's what we want in our children. We want them to see that inspiration in the good books that they read, but also within the home, and how what they do and how they do it affects the people they're living with.
So what tips would you give to a parent who perhaps was using rewards in the past, or perhaps has been pondering whether to start using rewards, how to go about this whole habit training thing? What practical tips would you give that person?
First off, you want to keep it positive.
That's true.
And that may take more work if you've been if you've been rewarding your children.
Freudian slip there, I think. Yeah.
Because they are going to have to change, because all of a sudden, what has been is no longer.
Yeah.
And we all know how much we all like change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
Not
when
very
we feel
much.
like we are losing something
Yes.
with
Yes.
that change. And so keeping it positive, I think, is a key part.
And I think we need to tell the children why we're changing and what to expect.
Yes, especially if they're older.
Yeah.
If they're still very young, just change your habits, and they'll come along. But the longer you've used rewards, the harder it's going to be for your child.
Because they've come to depend on that. That's the habit of thinking.
Yes.
Now you're going to have to change that habit of thinking.
Yes, but keep it as positive as you can. You want to encourage your children in those good habits. You want to focus on what they are doing right, not what they are doing wrong. You can mention, hey, that's not the attitude, or that's not quite the way we wanted it done, but don't focus on that. You want to find things that they've done that are the way you want them to be done. Hey, that was a good way to say that. Oh, I see that you picked up most of the things. How about if we pick up one more thing? So you want to, it's baby steps, gradually getting there. It's not going to change overnight as much as we'd want it to.
That's true. It's true.
Another thing is giving your children clear explanations about what is expected.
Yes.
And that how much you give for an explanation is going to depend on your child's age, your child's abilities. A younger child, you're going to want to do one thing at a time and make sure that that gets done first before you give the next step.
And when you say one thing at a time, I just want to clarify, I made a big mistake when I put one of my young children in the bedroom and said, here's the one thing to do, clean up the room. That did not go well.
Overwhelm.
Yes, yes.
Where do I start?
No clue what I meant. Just stood there and looked at me. Didn't know what I wanted. But when you say one thing.
Right. So in the case of cleaning up a room, you might say, let's clean up all the blocks first.
And put them
here.
Yes.
Here. And when that task is finished, then you can come back and you'll say, okay, let's put all the dolls away, or whatever the toys are, or the clothing, or whatever paper your child might have in the room that needs to be taken care of. So it's very overwhelming if you just say, clean it up. They don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
An older child, you may be able to give more tasks at a time. These are the things I want cleaned up. I'm going to let you do that. And after a certain amount of time, I'm going to come back and see how you did.
And for some, even if they are older, if they have a problem retaining all of those steps that you
Yes.
gave them, write them down
Yes.
or help them come up with what's the best way to support you in this habit. We are a team here.
Yes.
I'm not dictating to you. I want to help you. And the whole reason we're doing this is so you can grow as a person. So let's figure out the best way to help you do that.
Yes. Or you could write it down, or maybe your child can only handle one thing at a time as an older child. That's that child's ability. You can say, when you're finished with that task, come to me and we'll decide what's next. And that way, you don't have to write it down, but they're also responsible for coming to you to say, I finished that one, what's next?
And then you make a mental note to go check after a reasonable amount of time
Yes.
to make sure they didn't forget to come tell you.
Yes. They didn't get busy playing or reading a book
get
or whatever
distracted
children
somehow.
get distracted with in the middle of the task. So I think those are the things that I would say. Keep it positive, encourage the good habit that you are establishing, and make sure your expectations, your explanation of what needs to be done are clear to your child.
Those are great tips and encouragement for parents. I know we have done an episode before on natural consequences and how you can use those in a variety of settings. So we'll leave a link to that episode
Yes.
in the notes. I want to finish up with one little clarification, I guess, or question for you. If we're not giving rewards, do we ever have a celebration? What's the difference between a reward and a celebration? Because I know in Laying Down the Rails for Children,
Yes.
when you're doing that parent prep section, one of the steps you do is how do you want to celebrate progress in this habit? Is that the same as a reward? Do we need to rewrite that book?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that the rewards are to get your child to do something. A celebration is when you have achieved that something already. And at least in my mind, that's the way I see them. I want you to do such and such behavior, and if you do that, I will give you this. Instead of, look how far we've come, let's celebrate. Just two very different things in my mind.
Yes, yes. So what kind of celebrations did you do with your kids?
Sometimes we would, I have to remember.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was out of the blue there.
Sometimes we would do ice cream.
And the kids didn't know it was
special
coming.
Oh, no. No, and it would be an announcement. Hey, you guys have been so good at doing this. Let's have ice cream sundaes. Or maybe we would take them to some fun activity. Maybe, I can't remember anything at the
we
moment.
would
Anyway,
sometimes do dessert first.
we sometimes just had dessert for our meal.
But the whole point is the kids didn't know it was coming.
Right.
Or they might have an idea, sometimes we do this, but they didn't know when it was coming. And it wasn't directly tied to one specific action. If you do this, then
Correct.
you will get this.
Correct. And I think we all need to celebrate our accomplishments, not continually, but when you set a goal for yourself and you achieve that goal, don't you like to have at least a small celebration? Whether it's a special treat or it's a book that you've been wanting for a long time, you set that, I'm going to use the word, you set that as a reward for yourself for achieving the new habit that you have been establishing. And that's a celebration. I'm not doing this to get the reward. I'm doing this to do something better than I had been doing it. And when I get there, when I've achieved, I'm going to do a celebration. I'm not going to quit what I'm doing.
Right.
after I've celebrated.
The mental habit is not tied to that celebration at the end.
Yes.
It's tied to, this is what I'm doing to grow as a person, and along the way, we're going to celebrate the progress we see.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
a difference, yeah. All right, we won't rewrite the book. I think it's helpful to specify what that difference is, to clarify it. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for your help talking through this topic. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe. Check the description for a link to the episode on natural consequences in habit training, and also for a link to that book we mentioned, Laying Down the Rails for Children. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.